One thing that I think isn't talked about much that women don't realize is as we go through menopause and our estrogen drops, human growth hormone, which is a really important hormone, women have more of it than men because it's closely related to estrogen. So people think of human growth hormone as a masculine thing, but actually women have it. It drops in parallel with estrogen. And a lot of the symptoms that women get in menopause, like the weight gain around the middle, like losing muscle mass, like brain fog, human growth hormone is a major player in that. And if you can do exercise that stimulates human growth hormone, then you're going to help, like you said, with weight loss, with maintaining and gaining that muscle, keeping your bones strong.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. It is great to have you here today. No matter what time of the year it is, you may be listening to this, the information we're going to be sharing today is relevant. We're going to be talking about strength training. And no, I'm not necessarily talking about strength training where you end up looking like Hercules or Herculeta or any of that at all. I'm talking about the strength training that is going to make a major difference in your life when it comes to your overall energy and fitness, and maybe some side benefits you haven't thought of before. I have with me today Ashley Selman. She is a nationally ranked Olympic trainer and has been an award-winning fitness and coach and expert in California, in Silicon Valley, my hometown. Well, not my hometown, but California overall. She's my homegirl. Okay.
Yeah.
Named the top 100 trainer in America by Men's Health, and also a top 10 trainer in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we are in excellent company when it comes to asking all things training, but especially for midlife women. I still hear women say, well, I don't know if I want to do the weightlifting because I don't want to get old bulky. And I hate to break it to you, sister, but at midlife, after 45, whatever, you don't have to worry about that because you're losing muscle mass even when you sleep if you're not working out. So thank you so much, Ashley, for being here on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. It is great having you here today.
Thanks for having me. That was a great introduction. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. You are quite accomplished. Oh, my goodness. 18 years owning your own trainers in Mountain View, 14,000 square feet of private personal training. How did you get into this whole thing, and why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah, I know. I've had my studio for a long time now. I was an athlete in college, and out of college, I started coaching. I coached at University of Oregon. I coached at Stanford. I coached Jackie Joyner Kersey, which you've probably heard of, which was one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. But kind of during that time, got into fitness coaching at the same time, realizing that I really enjoyed working with people that were just looking to improve their health and their life, and then from that managed a gym, and next thing I knew I wanted to have my own space, and really figured out my dad owns a business, and I think it's in my genes. I love owning a business and running a business, and to have a business that's in fitness is like the perfect combination for me. Yeah. So yeah, I really loved it and learned a lot along the way, and continue to learn a lot. And I'm 55 myself, so in the midlife plus, gone through menopause, all of that. So I feel like helping women in that kind of stage of life is a really big passion of mine, and I've learned a lot from my own experience, and as well as working with other people that really works for that group of people that maybe they're not aware of.
Oh, absolutely. And you look incredible. I was thinking, oh my gosh, you might be a little bit young for my demographic.
Well, thank you.
There you go. Okay, so you can't just by appearances. So let's dig right in because I think that there's so many myths around strength training. Let's first dispel the myth about if women choose to do strength training, the one fear they should have is that by the time they finish training after a few months or whatever, they're going to be looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to look.
Mm-hmm. I know that's a great one to start with. It is definitely one that is out there that I get so like frustrated about. Like, that is okay. You were right. You said in the intro, as we get older, muscle is our friend, and muscle will decrease every year if you're not doing something to put it on. And as we get older, muscle is not only the key to, it's not about how we look anymore, even though muscle can make you look nice and fit, but really it's about how your body functions, how your metabolism functions. It helps regulating our blood sugar. It helps keep us independent as we get older. It protects our bones. I mean, there are so many things that muscles do. And if when we're younger, we can get away with skipping strength training because we have all of our hormones that are helping maintain our muscles. But as midlife hits, that's just not the case anymore. And we do start needing to prioritize that, maybe even over cardio, which I know for a lot of women, cardio is their go-to.
Well,
And
I
it
can tell you,
changes.
absolutely. I can tell you, as a wellness person for 18 years, working with women over 40, cardio is not your friend after 45. In fact, sometimes you might get the opposite results. If you want to get fit and
Exactly.
stay trim, strength training is fine. I mean, doing a cardio class here and there is fine. I'm not one of those people who is a fatalist that you have to do it this way all the time. Not that. I think that all things in moderation, but one thing I love about strength training is just what you mentioned. It accomplishes several different things. And for those of you who are thinking about the whole weight issue, which definitely is difficult or can be in menopause, because a lot of times it's hormonal weight that you're dealing with.
Mm.
Strength training is probably one of the best ways to begin to trim down because, as I love to say, when you are strength training, you're even losing weight as you sleep because of the
Mm.
trajectory that's put into place. Your body loves the idea of weights. So I noticed this question that I saw when I was preparing today. There was a question I saw on questions to ask, and I want to know what are the 3 to 5 things that anyone can do to improve their daily fitness? Let's start there.
3 to 5 things that can improve their daily fitness. Well, I would say, okay, for daily fitness, one, just movement, right? Our society is so sedentary now, unfortunately, with all the computer work and Zoom and commuting and all that. So getting up and moving often. But the one thing that I think has happened with all this stuff around steps and how many steps have you gotten in, that the number one thing people will tell me is like, oh yeah, I exercise, I walk 5 times a week. And walking is actually not exercise. It's activity, it's movement, it's good for us, but you also have to do exercise. And the definition of exercise is st- creating enough stress to either be building your aerobic base, strengthening your heart, or creating enough stress to be building muscle. And so that is key. And as you said, the muscle part becomes even more important as we age, and in particular for women. One thing that I think isn't talked about much that women don't realize is as we go through menopause and our estrogen drops, human growth hormone, which is a really important hormone, women have more of it than men because it's closely related to estrogen. So people think of human growth hormone as a masculine thing, but actually women have it. It drops in parallel with estrogen. And a lot of the symptoms that women get in menopause, like the weight gain around the middle, like losing muscle mass, like brain fog, human growth hormone is a major player in that. And if you can do exercise that stimulates human growth hormone, then you're going to help, like you said, with weight loss, with maintaining and gaining that muscle, keeping your bones strong. And so figuring out how to tap into our human growth hormone naturally as we go through menopause, to me, has been one of the things that has been the most game changing for the women I've been working with.
I love that we're talking about this because we're just going to make it all about me right now. Uh,
Awesome.
I'll tell you my story. I stopped menopause, I guess, like around 62, something like that. And up until that time, I had hot flashes, but very few symptoms. And I stayed a size 6 like forever. Then one morning, literally at around 63, I woke up and I was like, what the hell is this in the backside? And what is this? I've never had breast before in my life. And I took ballet for years and my arms were always toned. All of a sudden I had these shoulders. What is going on? I was so careful. But I was a late bloomer because a lot of people don't realize that with menopause, you come out of that stage, and there's certain indicators that say you're out of that stage, but that doesn't mean that your hormones aren't going up and down. So for someone like me, that was a late bloomer, doggone it, I've always been a late bloomer, when it came to losing weight, what is it that I do to begin to combat some of the things that are happening with my body?
Yeah, so you're right. As we go through menopause, and you're lucky that you went through so late. That's so good for long-term health. I went through menopause at 43, but
Wow.
I'm still doing. And you said I look young, so thank you. But I really think a lot of that is is the exercise. And so why is strength training important from a hormonal standpoint? Because there's a lot more talk about heavy lifting right now for women as they get older. And that can be great and that has lots of benefits, but it also can be intimidating. And if you're not experienced with lifting, it can cause injury, or if you have a joint injury, that can be hard. So I also use a technique called this compression training or blood flow restriction training it's very well researched. There's tons of studies on it. It is the easiest way to get natural human growth hormone as a result of your strength workout. And it's been a game changer for women to lose body fat because human growth hormone is essential in breaking our body fat down, going through lipolysis and allowing our body to use our body fat as energy. If you don't have human growth hormone, that doesn't happen. And so for you in your 60s, as you've gone through menopause, every decade we're losing human growth hormone. As we go through menopause, we lose it more quickly. And when we don't have human growth hormone, our body doesn't utilize our body fat for energy anymore or near as much. So getting a strength workout in that stimulates human growth hormone is key. So I think that could be a really big key for you in helping with that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk. What is blood flow restriction? What is that exactly?
So I know it's kind of a scary term and it sounds sort of like, why would I want to do that? But it's been around for 50 years and it's actually been really researched in the medical and physical therapy field. It's been around for decades and it's very well respected. It's not a gimmick. It's really the true deal. What you're doing is you're wearing specialized bands on your arms and legs that slows down your venous blood flow. It's not affecting your arterial flow. So it's not like a blood pressure cuff. It's much smaller than that. But the magical key, it really is, I shouldn't say magic because it's a real thing, but the key of what makes it work is it puts our muscle into short-term hypoxia, meaning it doesn't have enough oxygen. We have two types of muscle fiber. Are you familiar with muscle fiber? I don't want to go too deep in science,
yes,
but
I'm familiar, but you might want to explain that to our listeners. And just
yeah,
an idea, our listeners are somewhere between the ages of 45 on up, but mostly 45 to 55. They
perfect.
care about wellness, but they're still learning because there's so much out there. So
There's so much out there. And that's one thing about this topic is I don't want this to feel overwhelming. This is actually a really simplified solution that will help people reach their goals in short, easy workouts. And
I'm all for that.
yeah, this is a way to simplify your health journey, make it safer, easier, and faster. You have two types of muscle fibers. There's type 1. Those are endurance muscle fibers that we use in daily life. Picture a marathoner's body. You think of kind of lean and kind of thin. And then think of a sprinter body, a little bulkier, stronger. Now, don't worry, we're not going to be getting Hercules, but the type 2 muscle fibers are the muscle fibers that use glucose, that make us strong, that make us powerful. And those are the ones we lose as we age. When you're restricting blood flow, your type 1 muscle fibers can no longer work because they work with oxygen. So your type 2 muscle fibers get involved with very light weights that they never would get involved with before. So I have women that start working out this way that within literally a week will feel much stronger. They'll start to notice the tone come back in their arms or legs because it's waking up these muscle fibers that we haven't been able to activate for a long time, especially as we're aging. Because traditional ways of working out, it's either going really heavy or, something that's very hard on our body. So it's a
That's
really
so
great way.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting because I've never experienced anything like this before, where my clothes are tighter than they normally are, and where when I pass a mirror, I keep looking to see if maybe it's gone now. It was just a nightmare waking up.
Uh,
So this is interesting. Now tell me a little bit about the apparatuses that are used for this blood flow restriction. I know they're like you mentioned cuffs. What are those
yeah, they're
and how do
cuffs. So there's different types, and you just want to make sure you get a reputable brand. There's several out there. I use a particular band called B3 Sciences, and I picked this one. It was developed by a cardiologist, and it's simple to use on your own. It's safe and it's comfortable. Some bands are really uncomfortable, and I've heard some people say, "Oh, I've tried that before and it really hurt." It shouldn't hurt. It's just putting some pressure on your arm. So there's other ones out there. The ones that I use So one of the reasons why it's just getting into fitness, these bands used to be super expensive, like thousands of dollars, and they were really specialized and you'd have to use them with a doctor or a physical therapist. Now they're coming down in price. The ones I use are now $450, which is still, not small, but it's coming down. I do a payment plan for people who want to use them at just $50 a month for 6 months to make it. My whole goal with this is to make it approachable for people to learn this truly game-changing method. I had a hip replacement 11 years ago from an injury that I had as a kid. And so my challenge going through menopause wasn't the weight gain. I think genetically, that wasn't my issue. Mine was I was losing muscle, and I lost about 8 pounds of muscle, even though I'm a trainer and I worked out a lot. I had a hip replacement. I could no longer lift heavy. When I found this method, my strength came back within a month to 2 months. And it literally changed my entire mindset about my potential for aging. Like, I was feeling depressed and kind of sad and kind of like, where am I, I'm in my 40s and my health's already declining. And what's that mean for when I'm in my 70s? And I have a completely different mindset now because I feel like I can do these workouts that don't hurt my body, that are easy to do, that are giving me these significant results of feeling more energy, stronger, healthier. So that's how I got so passionate about it. And the bands, like I said, you can, there's many places you can get them. I'm happy to put in the show notes, like a couple different options.
That would be great. And
yeah.
Where do you place them? Do you place them? Well, first of all, let me say this, everybody, before you start running over to Amazon to look, okay? A couple of things I need you to do. Go ahead and look, but don't do anything. Listen to this complete interview. Check out our guest and find out more information about her and find out if maybe you might want to work with her remotely, because I know Ashley's very skilled, but also you want to vet your source. I'm always talking about sourcing all the time. You don't necessarily buy the very first thing, and make sure you work with some kind of trainer. You just don't go strapping yourself in and try.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because there are bands on Amazon that maybe are like $20, and they're just these vinyl, like these things you have no idea how tight you're going. So I would not, for this, you want to do a reputable brand that has the technology that allows it not to create too much tightness. And these bands have that built in by design, that it's impossible to go too tight. So it makes it 100% safe. So you're right. You don't want to just go out there on your own, but it's something that, millions, there's been tons of people are using it. It was developed in Japan. They use it for lots of things. They even use it because it stimulates human growth hormone. It builds every muscle in your body. So from face muscles, they do like training face muscles for better skin health of your face, because as we age, the muscles of our face atrophy, and that's part of why we get thinner. So there's the human growth hormone is really the thing that makes this method, why the results people get are so surprising, is because of the human growth hormone. Because
what moves do you do with these restrictions?
Great question. So you wear them on your arms and legs, and what you tend to start with is, now when I'm using these bands, I do a few more isolated exercises than I would typically do. So maybe like arms, shoulders. I'll focus on quads if I'm using my legs to get this burn. What happens with the decrease in oxygen is you start building blood lactate. So lactate, our body is building all the time, but oxygen kind of whisks it away. If you work out really hard, you'll feel that burn. You've probably felt like a muscle burn when you've worked out before, right? The bands give you an exponentially more burn with a very light load. And the more that burn is, that's more lactic acid that sends a signal to your brain that you're in massive fatigue and you need to release human growth hormone. So it's the burn that the bands cause more of that triggers that human growth hormone. And so you do these isolated exercises to get the burn, you trigger human growth hormone, and then you can do we do core, you can swim with them, you can run in them, you can ride a stationary bike in them. I do all kinds of strength moves with them, but there's kind of a protocol you want to go through. First of all, you're always using much lighter weights than you would if you weren't wearing the bands. And that's because the bands will fatigue your muscle fibers faster, and so you won't be as strong. So if you try to go heavy, that's not the point. You keep the weights light and you do high repetitions And there's kind of a protocol of how to get the most out of a workout by the order of exercises you do and the amount of reps and sets that you do. But kind of 3 rounds of maybe 25 to 30 reps of a pretty light weight is what you want to do.
Okay. And what are the key exercises that women in midlife should be doing in general?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm a big believer in, full body exercise. We want to hit all of our muscle groups, right? So there's primary movements like pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, which is more the back of the legs. So squatting gets your front of your legs or like the top of your thighs, your quads. Hinging is going to get glutes and hamstrings, the back of your legs. Obviously, we want to do a bunch of core, not just crunches, but planks and chops and different angles to work your core. That's going to help back health. So really kind of, I call them foundational or primary movements that our body does. Leg strength is very important. As people get older, you start to hear how people have a hard time maybe getting up off the ground or even getting up off the couch as they're getting in the later years. So we want to keep that lower body strong enough that we can maintain activities of daily living. And that's for longer term, but the habits start now.
Yeah, that's interesting. In my other life, I was a professional dancer. I'm classically trained in ballet, and I danced all the way up until around 62. And then, like I said, one morning I woke up 63 and I had this butt and these arms and I don't know what. It was like, my goodness. But I still move. I think what's missing, and I have been doing strength training, but I have to admit, when I was doing all that traveling, visiting grandbabies and going to see newborn grandbabies and all of that, I let that go. So that was like about 6 or 7 weeks. And I could not believe the difference once I had stopped. It was I couldn't believe
Mm,
how quickly it went down. But tell us about muscle memory
mm.
and let's take me for example. What would be the expectation be that if I started doing more training like what you're talking about, that I could go back to where I was?
Yeah, muscle memory is a real thing. But what that means is you're once you've developed your muscle to a certain point, and then let's say you take a break for whatever reason, you're traveling, you get an injury, and you lose that, to get it back happens more quickly than if you were building it from the first time, like to get to a. So once you've developed muscle, to get back to it is quicker. Your body can has those muscle fibers, they're used to being engaged, and you just kind of have to get that nervous system back communicating with those muscles and those muscles firing again, and you'll get a faster response. So I know for me, I had my hip replacement, I lost a lot of muscle.
Mhm.
But when I found the right tool to help me build strength, I was able to gain that muscle quickly because I'd already had it from before.
Which makes
Um,
a huge difference.
yeah.
It's interesting because I've so far now, I don't know, I'll be 68, so we'll see if this is still going to be true. But I had this goal. I always do. Ever since I turned 60, I've had this goal of where I want to be on June 3rd on my birthday. And of course, it seems like I get worse in terms of what I'm eating and everything else. I don't know if it's psychological. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I have only 2 weeks left. I know my body well enough to know that if I start today with BFR, that by next week I'll see some difference. That's how quickly my body will go back because it's just used to working
Hmm.
out. It's used to moving. It's used to
Hmm.
toner. Now, I'm not saying that I'll go back to how I was at 25. So I'm not saying that. Okay. So don't be looking at my pictures on TikTok, everybody. Okay. I'm not saying that. They all look pretty darn good for a 68-year-old. And my thing isn't so much about the looks, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It really is more about what you look like, not what it's more, I'm sorry, it's more about what your health is like, not necessarily.
Hmm. Yeah. And how you feel. And I know for some people, like energy becomes an issue as we get older. And doing these kind of workouts will really increase energy, make you feel like just living daily life gets easier and doesn't, your body's just more prepared to handle it. And to your point about trying something, and I think for midlife women, most women, even if they didn't lift before, whatever, we did have more muscle in our younger years. And so as we lose it as we get older, we really can get that back if it's a myth that you can't gain strength as you get older. You just need to put a little bit of focused work in it. So you can get back to it more easily because, at midlife, because we had it before. And now it's just learning how to work with our new hormones and the way our body works now to regain that strength that's going to carry us through, the decades to come.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to say something else to all you all who are listening to this, getting ready to go get your BFR stuff and looking for videos and everything else. I get it. I understand. Everybody wants to find some kind of quick solution. Let's just remember, it took a little while for us to get like this, take a little while for us to get back. And either way it goes, please give yourself grace. Your mindset is probably the most important thing when it comes to working out. I'm sure, Ashley, you can tell us plenty about the importance of mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. I will say, mindset is huge. I think what happens with people when they start working out, if it's, if they're trying to get over that hill of like, okay, I need to start working out, is it can take a long time, to your point. But I do like the program I've started with BFR. It is different. It helps people's mindset because in 20 minutes, you see results. The 20-minute workouts, you start seeing results. And within a week or two, you start feeling different. Your energy changes. You start noticing your muscle. And so it's very positively motivating. So I know people that have done this program that have tried other things that they just had a hard time sticking with, or they just didn't like it, or they would just dread going to the gym. And this becomes more of a positive experience because they can clearly see the benefits they're getting without that much time. We just recommend 3 times a week of 20 minutes. And there's pretty significant results with that we've been seeing. So I feel like it meets people where they're at, and it's not intimidating, and it's not this big overwhelming, now I have to go to the gym and learn how to do all this stuff.
Exactly.
And, it can feel, that's the thing. It can feel so overwhelming. There's so much information out there that we're just getting flooded with all the time. And yeah. And so when I talk about this method, I get a little hesitant. Like, I don't want to sound like it's just one more thing you need to do, but honestly, this is a simple way to check a bunch of boxes in the least amount of time possible and really, really prepare yourself both from muscle, bone, energy for the years to come. And I have never, in the 30 years as a coach, I have never found a method that has been this impactful to myself personally and to my clients.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so glad that you came on. Everybody take a look at the show page and click on her website, check her out, figure out how you might be able to work with her to get a good start in this. And, I think also when it comes to, taking a look at what we're looking like as we age and what we can do and everything else, it can be overwhelming. That's why go ahead and do yourself a favor, because you're either going to pay for it on the front end or the back end, but guaranteed you're going to pay for it some kind of way. So why not pay for it? Why not pay for it in the front end while you're still here? Okay. It's money well vested. And I know that when I am doing strength training, I feel so much better. I have so much more energy. And I
Mm-hmm.
can tell it was, actually, when I was in Texas visiting my grandchildren, I was just using them.
Yeah, exactly.
Weightlifting and picking up
Yeah.
and all of that. And I was thinking to myself, I'm so glad that I can do this, at 67, 68, to still pick up one of my 2-year-old grandbaby guy. Is he 40 pounds? It's just ridiculous. It's just,
They get heavy. I know. And then they're
yeah.
moving around, and that's even harder. Yeah.
Right. And then they lived in a 2-story house. So I was running up and down with
Oh,
a, yeah, it was not pretty, but I did.
wow.
I did it. That was my
That's
form
great.
of exercise. And listen, I don't want to poo-poo all you walkers out there. I think walking is very important for your stress. It's important for creativity and intuition. So many things can come in your mind as you're walking. It's great for fresh blood flow in terms of oxygen coming in and going to all the organs. That's important too. But you want to switch it up in order to be impactful. And strength training is one way to do that, right, Ashley?
Absolutely. And I agree with you. Walking is great. It's just not the only thing. We need to do other things as well. They kind of complement each other. And yeah, but you're absolutely right. And yeah, Linus, I would love to work with you and do a little experiment and see what you
Yeah,
think. That'd be fun.
we're going to talk offline because you guys will get to hear this part, okay? And listen, you guys, make sure you come back again to listen to the V.I.B.E Living podcast. We have wonderful guests just like Ashley, wonderful guests just like Ashley that are well educated and have experience too, because all of our guests are way over 40 in most cases. So they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. These are not
Yeah.
chat GPT coaches. These are the real deal.
That's right. And you're a great host, Linus. You have wonderful energy. I love your vibe.
Well,
That's
thank
that's a
you. Thank
that's a
you so
play on
much.
words right there.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Take a look at the other podcasts. They are awesome. Thank you for making us in the top 8% of podcasts globally. That's fantastic. Let's keep it going.
Woo.
Please comment, like, and share, and let me know what else you'd like to see on the Vibe Living Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a fantastic day, everybody. And don't forget the vibe. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Vibe Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.